Thank you very much. We're here on behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association.
Okay.
We represent 206 African American owned newspapers across the United States. In print, we reach 20 million people a week.
Wow.
And of course, we reach more than that on digital and social media.
Wow.
Our readers are very interested in your leadership, how you've merged the public and private sector together to make a difference in Africa. So my first question is, what is your vision for Africa over the next 5 to 10 years?
So thanks. Good to meet you. I'm always like to identify and connect
Yes.
with our brothers who live there from other parts of the world. So it's a good opportunity talking with you today. Africa is a land of opportunities, and some of us believe that what the world knows about Africa and sees about Africa is quite different from the reality on ground. So I want to see in the next 5 years and beyond an Africa that is characterized as it should be, an Africa that is seen as a land of opportunities, an Africa that is able to provide employment for its youth, an Africa that is truly developed in terms of improved access to electricity, in terms of gender engagement and empowerment, in terms of infrastructure or its of conditions that help the private sector to do. An Africa that invests in Africa, with Africans investing in Africa, and also Africans in diaspora and Africans in North Africa, in North America, coming to invest on the continent. I want to see an Africa that is able to feed itself, as we discussed this morning during the food security conversation. An Africa also that is able to leverage this demographic boom into a demographic dividend. That's what I want to do.
In your speech on food security, you mentioned the youth of Africa, that Africa is, in terms of the demographic, some 10 million coming of age.
In terms of
Yes.
workforce, we have 10 million people entering the workforce, labor market in Africa every day, or more than that. And so if we must deal with the issue of youth unemployment, we must quickly create jobs that's able to suck or create opportunities for these people to be employed. And the truth is, government as we know it today and all over the world does not create jobs, or does not have the ability to create the kind of jobs we need on the continent. But the private sector can help to create those jobs. I'm talking about private sector, we need to see the African entrepreneurs help to create jobs. So we need to get out for this. We need to make sure that the operating environment that will enable the entrepreneurs in Africa to do well is provided. We need to make sure that endowed Africans do something to support the entrepreneurs. And that is why the Tony Elumelu Foundation that I funded in 2010 has committed a sum of $100 million to identifying 10,000 African entrepreneurs and providing seed capital, mentoring, networking opportunities that will help them become fishermen, become entrepreneurs, and ultimately employers of them, and playing their own part and role in helping to develop Africa.
Two-part question. First, I read your definition of African capitalism.
Yeah.
And in the United States, there are 45 million African Americans who spend $1.2 trillion every year. But very little investment and we need to improve our entrepreneurs here on the business sector. But for a community that spends 1.2 trillion every 12 months, as I read some of your background and all the work you've done in Africa, I saw some synergy opportunity to get African American business leaders to see investment opportunities in Africa, but also to encourage entrepreneurs in Africa as well as in Black America. It seems to me that throughout the Pan-African world, we're basically sometimes consumers, not necessarily producers. And I think you stand out not only as one who defines, Afro-capitalism, but who practices it. And so my question is, how would you encourage people throughout the diaspora to be involved more in Afro-capitalism?
So Afro-capitalism is actually a call on the private sector to realize that it has a key role to play in developing Africa. And hoping to do this through investment in long-term investment in key sectors of the African economy. And these are sectors that should help to capitalize and develop the country. So sectors like power, like agriculture, like financial services, like health. These are very strategic sectors that if you invest long-term in these sectors, you, the investors or the shareholders, entities investing in these sectors end up making money, but at the same time, you have to create social dividend. If you look at power, for instance, you invest in power, you make money, your shareholders are happy, but at the same time, you're helping to improve access to electricity for the country. You're helping to reduce cost of doing business for the small and medium-scale enterprise. You're helping to provide light electricity for students to do their homework. You're helping also to do it. Has huge catalytic impact. So African is let's stop putting up government and let's stop criticizing it. Let's do something. Let's play our own role. Let's realize that we have the power to make all of this happen. We have the power to access capital. We have the power to allocate capital. But we need government. We need to work with government to create an enabling environment and enable all this. So that's Africa done. There is born out of one's past experience in growing businesses, turnaround businesses, and realizing that whilst making money, you indeed can do all of this simultaneously, not one waiting for the other. Okay. And it's all about shared purpose, shared prosperity, working together for the betterment of everyone, for shareholders, for investors, and for society. Now, how do we get the Africans in diaspora to invest, to be involved?
Yes.
We need to get all involved, not just Africans in diaspora, Africans in Africa also, to invest in key sectors of the country. Those abroad need to even understand what's going on in Africa. They need to know about the opportunities in Africa. There's not a quota system. They're not going to force people to invest. But people go to invest in places where they are comfortable, where they have the right information. So this kind of conversation you and I having is important.
Yes.
People need to know that in Africa you have very huge returns on investment. In fact, I say to be there nowhere else that I get the kind of returns I make in Africa. People need to know this. And if people know this, then they will go to invest there. But if you stay here in America, for instance, the kind of information you get about Africa is squalor, poverty, terrorism, fighting, etc. You don't ever get to know that in Africa you have people who do good business. You have people who can even take up this kind of endeavor to help support 10,000 African entrepreneurs with some of $100 million. Then people will be shocked to hear of that about Africa. But that is the reality, that is the true story of Africa. So this kind of conversation we're having is the starting point of mobilizing people to look to see how they can invest in Africa. I believe that capital goes to where it's most welcome and also where it's most safe.
And from our publishers, from our readers here in the United States, we would like to get this message out more consistent. And so one of the things I'm going to work with your communications team, even after this interview, is how to do follow-up. Because the way we're going to do this is going to be a very positive story, and we know it's going to generate response. And I think having consistent information about market development, opportunities.
We'll put you on our mailing list.
Yes, yes.
So that we keep sharing information.
Right. And I was mentioning to your assistant when we were out that several of the largest newspapers in Nigeria have approached us of joining the Newspaper Association.
Mm-hmm.
So we may become international. But we want to work with some of the journalists there as well as some of the journalists here. And I'm thinking about bringing a delegation of our publishers to Nigeria to visit sometime in the future.
Sure.
We'll coordinate. The last question that I have for you is you mentioned in your remarks the importance of electricity.
Correct.
Power.
Excellent
generation. Last year I was in the DRC and they were discussing the hydroelectric on the Congo River. There's a lot of debate about whether or not that will happen.
The
Nganga project. What is your perspective? Do you think that project is going to reach fulfillment?
I think I know certain facts about the energy situation in Africa.
Yeah.
One, I know there's a power deficit or energy deficit in Africa. Two, I know that over 600 million Africans don't have access to electricity in the 21st century, where it is given. People don't even know what the blackout is. And so what that tells us is that there's huge opportunities for investment in power. I also speak as one who has invested in power, and I know that the return on investment in power is very good. Our business, I said, we generate 19% of Nigeria's total power consumption, and we broke even year one. Nowhere else do you make that kind of power. Is a heavily capital-intensive sector. The 750 megawatts that we have capacity to generate is costing us almost close to $1 billion, both acquisition and upgrade costs. And you don't make this kind of investment in break-even year one. But we did. We paid dividends to shareholders year one. So put all of this together: acute power deficiency, significant returns on investment in power, the raw material for power, whether it's renewable energy or gas-fired energy or hydro-powered energy, are in abundance in Africa. So the demand there, the raw material is there, return on investment is high, but we have a few missing links. One being regulation, government policies and how they affect the sector, and two is lack of information asymmetry, people not knowing about the opportunities in this sector on the continent. And so, talking about Nga Dam, I would say it's not a question of will it take off or not. It's a question of is there a market, is there a need for it? And so we should be thinking of what we all need collectively to do to make it work. Because Nga Dam has capacity to supply most of Africa's energy requirements. That is the way we should be thinking in Africa at this time. And so we need to galvanize, mobilize, and collaborate efforts to realize all of this, because power is a necessity on the continent. Power outage in Africa is becoming power outrage, so we need to fix it.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.
It's a short interview, but we're going to make it very long in terms of
Thank
impact.
you. And Madam will give you some of this one and a speech I made last time here when Miriam, when we called on the Electrify Africa. This last one was a go talk to your constituents. The last
summit.
about Electrify Africa. So she'll give you the two.
Okay.
To her.